news. That was not news. Okay.
Okay.
Tonight's featured reader is Susan Napack. Susan is a visual artist, began writing poetry before she knew what it was. Her much younger self experienced the Jack Kerouac School at Disembodied Poetics at Naropa Institute back when Allen Ginsberg, Gregory Corso, and William Burroughs were around. Her poems appear in Open Doors with a preface by poet mentor Michael Lally. So here, without any further ado, is Susan Napack.
I'm sorry for sitting, but I have a leg problem, so bear with me. You guys can't see. You want to come in a little closer? I do have some show and tell, so you might want to see some stuff. For those of you who don't know what's going on here, I am a visual artist. The little room behind here is called the Focus Gallery, and in that gallery is a collection of ephemera, artifacts, archives, things that from my life that I am attempting to make some sense out of and actually eventually let go of. Because I am a visual artist and I make stuff, I have transformed some of these objects and things and notebooks and sonograms and little drawings and things. I've shredded a lot of things, hence the title of the show is Memory Project 2, Shreds. And I encourage you in the break to take a look in there. There is a second layer of experience in it where you actually, if you have a phone and you hold your photo app up to the QR codes that are on the wall, it's actually me speaking memories that are attached to the particular piece of art that you're looking at. And I do consider that a vital part of the exhibition. There is also a transcript if you prefer not to do that, and I even printed out some extra pages, and you might need to plug into the Wi-Fi there. But you might want to come back and do it because it is a pretty intimate experience, and some of the memories are quite intimate as well. So for tonight, I do have a little bit of imposter syndrome up here because I'm not a practicing poet, but poetry has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. What I'm going to do is sort of similar to what I had in there, where I'm going to go back and look at read some of these poems. Hopefully they're not too embarrassing. Show you some things that are related to my writing as I got older and went through some things. And then also I've had the opportunity to workshop with some wonderful artists over the years. And know them through various, and I have some of their books here, and I'm just going to probably intersperse it with reading some of their work as well. So, to start with, I'd like to read a poem of mine that when I did workshop with Michael Lally, who I will tell you a little more about later, we did a little chapbook with the workshop poets that were in it, and I'm going to probably read this twice because it confuses me, even though I wrote it. But I think it kind of sets the tone for what's going on here. It's called Memory. I used to know more than I know now, before I knew what I forgot. Now I forget what I didn't know I knew. Should I read it again? Yeah. Maybe one more time. I used to know more than I know now, before I knew what I forgot. Now I forget what I didn't know I knew. So that's my fear of forgetting everything. That's why I hold on to everything. And then also the little QR codes, the little sayings in there, they all start with I remember. And I realized that I was kind of encouraged to do that through this little book, which is Joe Brainerd. I don't know if you've heard of Joe Brainerd. He was around, he was in Salem, Arkansas. In 1942, and he was very big in the New York art world, as well as the New York poetry world. And I'll just read a little excerpt. Some of the stuff is a little racy, so I'm not going to read that part, but I'll read, just a couple of things that sort of maybe relate to him looking back in his life. Lost. That was junior high school. I remember junior high school asking a girl who was too popular and pretty for me to dance, and she said yes. But the moment we arrived, she disappeared into a group of her friends, and I didn't see her again all evening. I think her name was Nancy. Yes, it was. I remember that Nancy was the girl I lost the vice presidency to. I remember Judy. I remember having a big crush on Judy and discovering that she was embarrassed to be seen with me, so I stopped asking her out. I remember Bill Haley and Rock Around the Clock. I remember thin gold ankle bracelets. I remember white trash. I remember nylon runs. I remember looking at myself in a mirror and becoming a total stranger. So let's see, there's also Elaine Equi. You probably have never heard of Elaine Equi, but Elaine Equi is one of my absolute favorite poets. And I had the good fortune of working with her husband, who is Jerome Sala, at Time Inc., and who is also a wonderful poet. And he is kind of, I think he started slam poetry in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken, at least he claims to have. And his wife is Elaine Equi, and she teaches poetry in New York. And I've met them both and really enjoy them, but her poems are just very succinct. And I'm going to read one that is to Joe Brainerd. It's called Starting to Rain, for Joe Brainerd. Distracted, I leave the therapist's office, but even walking fast, they catch my eye. Make me stop and look while they look back. Dark and light, blue pansies in a white window box. So small. How did they manage to make themselves heard? And Joe Brainerd, I should preface it by saying that he did some paintings of pansies. He's known for paintings of pansies. So now I'm going to kind of go back in my own kind of autobiography here. And the first poet that I ever was aware of, and probably everybody, E.E. Cummings. And I don't know why. I know this poem by heart. It's "Oh Purple Finch, Please Tell Me Why the Summer World and You and I, who have so much to live, must die." I mean, I don't know if that's correct or not, but it was something like that. And he was the first poet, I never knew that a poem could look, on the page like that, It was being very visual, and he never used capital letters, and it was like, wow, that's what poetry is. That's cool, man. But then I didn't start writing like that right away. Actually, I have a poem here that I think was from 7th grade, because it says, "Okay, credit has been recorded, Mr. O." And I looked back at my report cards, and Mr. O taught me in 7th grade. Not 7th grade. Was it 7th grade? 14 years old? 7th grade? Something like that. So I'll just read one of these. Not very good, but I have to read it. My future. What awaits my future? A road twists and turns. The pathways of my life lead a pattern of unknown. I know not how my pattern goes. It mystifies, spelled M-I-S, and surprises me. What next? What is there to come? If I could find out, I really wouldn't want to know. It would ruin it all. And then as I got older, turned like 15 or so, I started writing in journals. I started hating my parents. I went to art and music camp and found a community there of artists and people that I could relate to, and I couldn't relate to my parents anymore. So this was my notebook. I just have to show this note because it's like private, and it's in pink handwriting, and it says, if anyone is tempted to look in this book, I can understand it, but if you go ahead and read it, that's just plain inconsiderate.
Yeah.
This book means a lot to me. Please respect my wishes. Thank you. So that was sort of, and I have a lot of notebooks like this, where, adolescent angst of just trying to figure out who the hell I was. And most of it's extremely embarrassing. I would never show it to anyone, but it's just, I'm sure everybody has something like that, right? So, and then in high school, I actually got a little recognition for, got published in the student literary magazine, and actually, I'm more proud of the cover that I did for this one. I don't know why, it's the guy with the mandolin, but it was a pen and ink that I did. And also, I ended up being a graphic designer by default, but this was sort of my first graphic design. And I did. I'm not going to read you the poem.
You're kidding.
So that was high school. So then I went to art school in Philadelphia, and I met one of the students who was, I was actually his advisor, was born in Lowell, Massachusetts, which is where Jack Kerouac was from. He had already met Allen Ginsberg. He was a very brilliant guy, and he has gone on to be sort of a protege, mentor, caretaker for a lot of the big poets. His name is Raymond Foy, if you want to look him up. He's absolutely incredible. But he turned me on to the New York poetry scene, just in his books. I didn't meet them at that time, but I went to a talk at the University of Pennsylvania by Baba Ramdas, if you know Baba Ramdas, Dr. Richard Alpert, and he had been at this place called the Europa Institute in Colorado the year it opened, which was 1974. It was started by Allen Ginsberg, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, which was a Tibetan Buddhist Lama. There were New York poets, there were California poets, there were artists that were teaching there. It has become an accredited university now. And I saw this booklet and I was like, I have to go there. So I took my bat mitzvah money and I got on a bus and I went out there for the summer of 1975. And Allen Ginsberg was there, and he had also a bunch of people that he had met on the road when he went to different universities that he had brought to Naropa to transcribe his handwritten notebooks. And one of my friends was one of the guys that was doing that, so I had the opportunity to actually look over his shoulder and see Allen Ginsberg's handwritten notebooks. And this is what the result of that was, this book that was all of his collected poems. So I think I'm going to read this poem of his first, and then I'll sort of read one of my poems that I had, my response to Europa. And this, I found, was written about Portland, Oregon, the Coliseum in 1965. There was a Beatles concert. Yeah. Portland Coliseum. I'm not going to read the whole poem. I'm going to stop here. A brown piano in diamond white spotlight, Leviathan auditorium, iron rib wired hanging organs, Vox black battery. A single whistling sound of 10,000 children's larynxes as singing pierce the ears and flow up the belly. Bliss the moment arrived. Apparition, 4 brown English jacket Christ hair boys. Goofed Ringo battling bright white drums. Silent George, hair patient, soul horse. Short black-skulled Paul, wit-thin guitar. Lenin, the captain, his mouth a triangular smile. All jump together to end some tearful memory song. And so this is my response. It was a crazy time this summer. It was, it was 1975. Enough said. The role of the poet in society. Portraits of the artists as young walruses. Alternate states of consciousness and conscientiousness. Opening the poesy chakra, multifaceted colored halo emanating rays of chaos. Burroughs on high, Sanders' sarcastic, satiric scenario, Wayland's serene, bored, blunt bareness of Zazen, De Prima, Why I'm Not a Painter, Why I Am a Painter, close reality of misperceived and disbelief, disembodiment of bodies together searching for a soul, and my friend from Lowell writes, I'll place a flower on Jack's grave for you. His soul is here. And I did write a poem also about, a little bit later, about Jack Kerouac. He did write poems, by the way. I wasn't sure he wrote poems, but he wrote haikus also, which I found interesting because his books were like just one long sentence, book long, long sentence. But I was a little, I'll read it. Homage à Tijan, which was what his mother called him. The bitterness of fame marks your linen face. A guilty pocked highway of intellectual vagabonds that goes on and on and on and on. Holy junkies, Jews, punks, and priests drool, cool, spit on the sacred reed of bird's horn. Memory of youth stained into submission. If you read about Kerouac, you'll find out at the end he got kind of bitter and deteriorated and was not too happy with the hippies. Let's just say. But I do have some little drawings that I did in Europa. This is that was Ginsberg, and we've got Anne Waldman over here, and Gregory Peter Orlovsky, who was Ginsberg's partner. Yeah. So they were all there. It was crazy and amazing. And then let's see. I got back from Europa and I was still back in school, and I fell in love, and I was really worried about what my parents were going to say about it, and I stopped going to classes. And I went to my art class, but I didn't go to my poetry class, and I should have gone because this wonderful poet, Stephen Berg, was the teacher. And he ended up giving me a withdrawal fail, which I don't blame him. I've taught, I didn't go to class, but he did at the end. I did go with some of my poems, and he goes, "I really wish you would have come to class." But so I screwed that one. But I am going to read one of his poems. He translated the poems of Anna Akhmatova, who's known for that. And this is about writing class. Titled writing class. The student all the way down at the end of the long table said, "If you were my father, you'd drive me crazy." Why, I thought to myself, what have I done to her? Oh well. Then I left the room to copy a Lowell essay on freedom in poetry while the students wrote on the way back. Oh, on the way back, remembered the story about her cop father's pink Harley and about how much she loved him. But something else kept coming to mind, though I still can't find the words. Isn't it strange how we fear another's mind sometimes? It's like hating the weather because it's cold or glary, or like not having money enough to buy a dress you want or an expensive suit. Maybe why he chose pink and how it feels to ride the thing wide open without one thought was this something else. We sit 30 feet apart, we write, the table cluttered with white sheets, head down. I hear ballpoint pens rolling along wood, maybe even a faint roar from her old man's hot exhaust. Surely it's bleak equivalent, all alone, all alone. Yeah, I really missed out on studying them. But this is one of the poems that I did bring him, and this is kind of where I was and what I was thinking about. Maimonides, Rambam, Rashi, Buber, I'm counting on you to save me, scholars of my past. You were bearded and knew that Jewish girls were not meant for cooking chicken soup. Living with men, it doesn't bother me. He's the one with Bill Blast brown towels. Mine are smeared with the yellow ochre from my last painting. Should I put out clean ones? The blender's kind of dirty. I don't remember when I used it last. What did you do, mix paint in it? My mother would have turned over in her grave if she were dead. I find myself cooking chicken soup. The breasts are all I have. Peter suggests a whole chicken. It will be good for his cold. Is making a painting as hard as lifting a refrigerator? Poetry makes me sweat. You're a big girl all the way. Thanks, Bob Dylan. But there's Kerouac, our Christmas tree, home, and human beings dealing with it. It's all absurd. Let's get this one. And then a little bit later on, kind of in between, I got divorced. I was in graduate school. I had a little affair on a bus with a tour guide when I was touring with my grandmother. We went from LA to here because my brother was getting married in 1982. So it got a little boring, so we kind of ended. This is Eureka, or an affair in a state of congenial alienation. While they slept, we cruised, hiding to find ourselves touring each other in their vacant Greyhound seats. And then moving along, I moved to New Jersey after graduate school, and I met this wonderful woman, Holly Scalera, who's a poet, who lived in a pink house not too far from where I lived. And this is her book called Painting the House Pink, and she wrote a lot about her family. I'll just read this one, and then I'll read the poem that I read, that I wrote in her class, and I think I'll read that. Anyway, 117 2nd Street. Oh hum, oh air conditioner, your coolants are divine, and I love my king-size bed. My crown of dreams, red blue July, petunias, garden, hose, kiddie pool, squeak of ruby skin sliding against slippery blue, plastic yelling, wee! Oh, chartreuse lawn furniture, party lights hanging off the clothesline, where wet orange bathing suits are hanging up to dry. Honeysuckle spice fills up the steaming air. Oh, birds who shriek every night at 8 o'clock p.m., the train whistles chiming on the cicada's song. We are full, sweaty, sticky from grape-flavored ice pops. As we sit on chipped front stoop, watching stillness, watching fireflies fill up the center of this night. And I wrote about Pink House after she moved out. Ghosts. Walking to the train, I pass the pink house. It's peeling like ours. Bright blue steps and Pepto shingles attempt to keep it new, but time wins. Thunderbirds, poems, colored glass, and felted dreams live inside that house, but I doubt they have an audience like the one before the past began to peel. And then to kind of cap it off, Michael Lally. Michael Lally he's still alive. He's an actor. He was in Deadwood. He was a poet in LA. Started a bunch of poetry series there. He knows a lot of actors. But he started out in South Orange, New Jersey, which is where I ended up living before I moved out here about 6 or 7 years ago. And he wrote something called South Orange Sonnets when he was pretty young, and it got pretty well known. And then he moved back after living, all over the place. And I actually saw him at my friend Jerome's reading, which was at Bowery Ballroom, and he was leaning against the bar, and he was a really good-looking man. And I said to Jerome, "Who is that?" And he goes, "Oh, that's Michael Lilly. I think he lives in your town." And I was like, "He does?" And it's like, I think I have to know this guy. And Holly, I think it was, he said, "Oh, you got Michael." So she introduced me to him, and he was doing workshopping at his house. And I met some really wonderful poets there. Again, I felt a little bit of an imposter syndrome there because they were so good. But he was really a wonderful poet. I'm not gonna. Was I gonna read something of his? Yeah, I guess I was. Really quick. He did a lot of list poems. And he loves lists, and he did have a brain tumor, and he couldn't do his lists after that. And then he got back on the wheel and kind of did it. But this is, give me 5 minutes more to sell this thing, to tell my story, to straighten it out, to see her again, to calm him down, to explain to them, to fix that thing, to turn it off, to answer the question, to find the solution, to look it up, to explain myself, to win or lose, to get it right, to let it go, to say goodbye, to say hello, to tell them why, to ask for permission, to show them the way, to pick it up, to put it down, to make them laugh, to calm them down, to shift to neutral, to put it in park, to stand on my head, to remain in the dark, to split the infinitive, to reunite the movement, to fight for the right, to make the improvement, to settle for less, to look for proof, to expose the lies, to check the roof, to fill the cracks, to seal our fate, to kiss the girl, to close the gate, to master the technique, to plug the leak, to acknowledge the geek, to protect the weak, to discover their worth, to inherit the earth, to explode in mirth, to quench this thirst, to quiet that moan, to dig up the bone, to get off the phone, to write home, to rewrite this poem. And I have a poem that's sort of a list poem that I wrote. It's true things I could write poems about. How the thought of picking apples can make Michael cry. How my father asked me to tell him about yesterday. Learning as a noun. 100 wishbones. Why poems are like fishes. Bad news. Good news. The woman wrapped in a dirty white bedspread at the corner of 51st and Madison. Charlie Mingus. Lopsided dumpsters. How reading on the road while being on the road was not always a cliche. Loss of idealism. The perfectly straight, pencil-thin eyebrows of the mother on the train. Boys who dress me up, men who dress me down. Paranoia. Polaroids of embryos. To be continued. And then I have one last poem, probably the last one that I really wrote, serious poem that I wrote. It was in 2008. I really haven't written very much. I'm trying to get inspired by coming to this poetry group, and hopefully I will write more again. But this was to the point of distraction. When all else fails, read her letter again. The one that arrived the week after she died. Boil an egg soft with butter boats. Make a photograph of a few sharp thorns. Listen to the little icicles drip, drip melting in your chest. Forgive the sting of chlorine that drowns your left eye with each perfect overhand stroke. And damn it, kick. Thank you.
Isn't that terrific?
Yes.
So we're going to take a short break. Susan's installation is back in that corner. We have 2 sign-up lists over here. One is for the yoga mic. If you want to be the yoga mic, it's on that list. If you want to be on the mailing list, it's on the mailing list. So we'll take a couple of minutes, then come back to the yoga mic.